Speaker, the next tribute is to the Honorable James Jimmy Cliff Chambers, OM. And we will start the tributes with the Most Honorable Prime Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, members of the House. Today, Jamaica mourns one of her greatest sons, James Chambers. The renowned Jimmy Cliff passed away on November 24th, 2025, at the age of 81. We extend deepest condolences of a great nation to his wife, Latifah, and his children, and his entire family, friends, colleagues, and fans across the globe. We rise in Parliament to honor a boy from deep rural St. James who became an international superstar, a cultural ambassador, and the conscience for the world. Jimmy Cliff was born James Chambers in Somerton District, St. James, the second youngest of 9 children. As a little boy in primary school, he would stand near a neighbor's sound system, absorbing Mento and the early popular music of the day. And then he would go on to write his own music, make his own songs. At 14, his father took him to Kingston officially so he could attend Kingston Technical High School. But in Jimmy's heart, the trip was about music. In East Kingston, he shared a single rented room with his cousin, and it was there he adopted the name Jimmy Cliff, symbolizing the heights he intended to climb. He walked the streets with his notebook, going from producer to producer, entering talent contests, determined that somebody would listen. One evening, as he himself later recalled, he pushed his way into a record shop and a restaurant as they were closing and persuaded the owner, Leslie Kong, to go into the record business, starting with me. Out of that bold move came the hit, and can you imagine, Hurricane Hattie. That was the hit in 1962, recorded when he was still a teenager. And a string of early songs such as Miss Jamaica and Kings of Kings that made his name across the island. In 1964, this same youth from Somerton was chosen to represent Jamaica at the World's Fair in New York. And I leave this part to Minister Grange to give a little bit more of the context and history, because you were around then. And you would be able to give the details as to how Mr. Siaga was very influential in Jimmy Cliff going on to participate in the World's Fair in New York. And then he appeared on the television special, This Is Ska, alongside Prince Buster, Toots and the Maytals, and Byron Lee and the Dragonaires. Early signs that Jimmy Cliff was already carrying Jamaica's music beyond our shores. But, Madam Speaker, many people met Jimmy Cliff not first on the radio, but on the big screen. In 1972, he starred as Ivan Martin, in The Harder They Come, Jamaica's first major homegrown feature film. The character was loosely based on the real 1940s outlaw Reagan. But the struggles we saw on screen, a country boy in Kingston fighting for his place in the music industry, resisting injustice, came straight out of the lived experience of people like himself. The film was shot in our streets, our yards, and in our language. When it reached the United States, it was so rich in Jamaican patois that it became, as critics said, perhaps the first English language film that needed subtitles for the American audience. Yet, the world leaned in. The movie and its soundtrack were widely credited with bringing reggae to the world and remain among the most important cultural exports ever to leave Jamaica. In 1920, the soundtrack was added to the U.S. Library of Congress National Recording Registry as a work of enduring cultural significance. Through that film, Jimmy Cliff became not just a singer who toured abroad, but Jamaica's first reggae movie star, the face and voice of a new, confident Caribbean story. Behind the hits are stories that speak to Jimmy Cliff's depth as an artist. In 1969, he wrote Many Rivers to Cross while in the United Kingdom. Frustrated that his career had stalled, that despite his talent, he was still playing small clubs and could not break through the way he had dreamed of. He later explained that the song came out of that feeling of being lost and blocked on every side. It became a universal anthem of struggle and perseverance, covered by everyone from UB40 to Cher and Annie Lennox. Yet no version has ever matched the aching honesty of the original. His song, Vietnam, told the story of a U.S. soldier writing home, full of hope about returning, followed by a letter to his mother announcing his death in war. Bob Dylan is said to have called it the best protest song he had ever heard, a testament to Jimmy Cliff's ability to speak to global injustice from a Jamaican perspective. You can get it if you really want it. Captured another side of him, the encourager. He recounted that people could come up to him and say, I heard that song. I went back to school. Now I am a teacher, and I use your song with my students. That's how he inspired. For him, that more than awards was his success. The song has been adopted by political movements, sport teams, and classrooms around the world. Proof that a Jamaican message of grit and hope can travel to every continent. Later, his soaring cover of I Can See Clearly Now for the film Cool Runnings once again married Jamaican story to global audiences, this time through the improbable tale of our bobsled team, which at this point we acknowledge has won gold in an international competition. Jimmy Cliff was, by his own description, a seeker. He grew up in a Christian family, later embraced Rastafari, and in the 1970s converted to Islam after travels in Africa. Over time, he explored other traditions and religions, including Buddhism and Judaism, and in later years, he spoke of having a universal outlook on life, no longer tying himself to any one movement, but saying, now I can see clearly. Asked by the Observer about the greatest lesson life had taught him, he answered simply, seek to know who I am and be who I am. In another reflection on life and love, he said, don't hurt yourself and don't hurt anyone else. Love is the essence of all things. Those are not the words of a man chasing celebrity. They are the words of an artist grounded in conscience. His famous line that he would rather die free than live as someone's puppet or slave became a watchword for personal and political dignity. He often said he was not a supporter of any political party. He simply believed in right and not wrong, and always sided with the poor and the dispossessed. In that sense, he was a natural ally of every struggle for justice at home and abroad. Jimmy Cliff's journey from Somerton to the world stage is written in the honors he received and the doors he opened. He was awarded Jamaica's Order of Merit in 2003, and at the time of his passing, was the only living reggae musician to hold that distinction, the highest honor our country can give in the arts and sciences. In 2010, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, where he is only one of two Jamaicans, the other being Bob Marley. The hall hails him as reggae's first champion who carried the music across the globe. He was nominated for the Grammy Awards 7 times and won twice for Reggae Album of the Year. First for Cliff Hughes in 1985 and again Rebirth in 2012. I leave the rest of his long accomplishments to Minister Grange and others to point them out. In Jimmy Cliff, we see the best of Jamaica. Creativity, born in humble circumstances, courage to push open closed doors, a restless mind always searching for deeper truth, and a heart that insisted that love and justice must walk together. On behalf of the government and people of Jamaica, I extend profound condolences to his wife, Latifah, to his children and grandchildren, to his relatives in Somerton and across St. James, and to the countless colleagues and fans here and abroad who feel this loss so personally. We also pay tribute to the many Jamaicans and friends of Jamaica who inspired his music, chose a different path, went back to school, stood up for their rights, crossed their own many rivers because a song from a small island told them they could do it. Jimmy Cliff has taken his final bow, but his voice will continue to echo in dance halls and churches and quiet moments of reflection. His life reminds us that Jamaica's creativity is indeed world-class, and that our stories, told in our language, our rhythm, are powerful enough to move the world. May his soul rest in peace, and may perpetual light shine upon him, and may we, the living, honor his legacy by building a wonderful world of beautiful people that his song so often imagined. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Madam Speaker.
Leader of Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I wish we had been told that we would be doing this today, so we could have prepared something appropriately fulsome to honor a great Jamaican cultural ambassador, James Chambers, Jimmy Cliff. Jimmy Cliff occupies a special place in Jamaica's popular music tradition. He is not, cannot be categorized like any other artist that we have produced. He is unique in a number of ways. He's unique in his musical style, the way he writes, the way he sings. He's unique in his image because, as the Prime Minister indicated, he has gone through a process of spiritual evolution throughout his life, which I don't think is a path that others have followed who have made it in the reggae genre. So from that perspective as well, he was unique. He had a very beautiful tenor voice and a tremendous range that he was able to reach with that gift of God. And he was also, of course, a great songwriter and a wonderful performer. The Harder They Come is a work of art that I don't think Jamaica has sufficiently acknowledged for the influential role that it played in bringing our culture and our musical culture in particular to the world. And Jimmy Cliff played a major role in that film. First of all, he starred the film as a young actor. I don't know if he'd acted before, but he was a natural, and he played that part with an authentic convincingness, if that's a word, that has helped to assure its longevity. And for those who haven't had the benefit of watching The Hard They Come, it repays the time spent watching it, because it is still so fresh when you watch it. Although the scenes in it, of course, are in the early 70s, late 60s perhaps. I don't know when Perry Hensel started shooting it, but it's though set in that era, the themes of it, the dialogue, the music are all timeless. The soundtrack, which Jimmy Cliff had at least 2 songs on it. So that's why I say he had such a major, because that soundtrack is also extremely influential. I personally rate that soundtrack as one of the greatest film soundtracks ever in any genre. Toots is on it, Desmond Dekker is on it, the Slickers are on it, and Jimmy Cliff. Jimmy Cliff has 2 songs on it. Many Rivers Across is on it, and The Harder They Come is on it. And there's no doubt that that film, which kind of was distributed in a very unorthodox way because it didn't have any major distributor behind it. The way the whole film was put together, you know, Pat Rousseau was telling me one day, you know, how he was asked by Perry and Trevor Rohn, who was very involved in it too, to raise the money, and went around and signed promissory notes with people to fund the production. This is way before Golden Me, way before. And it was distributed by Perry going out to Europe, to the North America, wherever he could go, and getting independent cinemas to license it and show it. And that thing has never stopped showing. It is, if you go to any major capital in the world, you can watch it at any time. And for those who haven't had a chance to see it, I urge you to find a way of watching it. What I would say is Jimmy's input in that album launched his musical career to a new level. And of course, he penetrated markets which had not traditionally been open to Jamaican music. And, you know, he became a much-loved cultural ambassador for Jamaica, in Brazil in particular, but also in Africa. And, you know, he never lost his love for Jamaica, of course. Those of us who love football and were around will have attended the final qualifying match for the 1998 Road to France campaign at the National Stadium. And on that blisteringly hot day, in a Ram Stadium, Jimmy Cliff performed. And he performed The Harder They Come. Yeah. And he had the stadium rocking. And there was no doubt we were going to qualify for the World Cup. And qualify we did. Jimmy Cliff. The last time I saw him perform was on the university campus at Mona. There was a show put on which was supposed to be the first of a series, but seems to have been the first and the last. And it was in the chapel gardens of the campus. And he was the main act. And it was full, and he performed a long set, and it was absolutely brilliant. He had the audience enthralled and in his hand. His catalog is massive, and he could draw on hits from every decade. And no one left that concert not feeling that this had been a privilege to have been able to watch and listen to that performance. So I'm just glad that I'm able to say these words to honor him as a great Jamaican, truly deserving of the Order of Merit, which he was granted in 2003, and somebody whose music will live on through the ages, and whose performance in that seminal film will also. A son of the soil of St. James, Somerton, former Prime Minister, the Most Honorable P.J. Patterson, I think attended Somerton Primary School and wrote a superb tribute to Jimmy Cliff yesterday. And I want to pay tribute to that tribute as well. But, you know, Jimmy Cliff's passing was sudden. I didn't know he was ailing. I knew him a bit. I'd been to his house and met him there. Something to do with the music business. I can't remember what I was doing there at the time. But I remember he came out and met with me and my team. And he was extremely friendly and welcoming, you know, when he didn't really know us. So that was, you know, I think a testament to the kind of person he was, because, you know, we were bothering him, but he didn't mind. He was happy to see us, and we had a good talk. So from that personal point of view, I can acknowledge that he was a special kind of man. So rest in peace, Jimmy Cliff, and may the chimes in heaven configure themselves in accordance with your own melodies. And may your and welcome all of us if we make it there. Thank you, Madam.
We'll next take the member from St. James East Central, after which we will take the member from Kingston Western, then the member from St. Catherine East Central, and finally the member from St. Catherine Central, Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment, and Sports.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, today this Honorable House and all Jamaica mourns one of our most gifted sons, James Cliff Chambers, who was not only an ordinary star, but indeed a global superstar.